The Analogue Pocket has been open to developers for over a year now. In that time, we've seen all kinds of cores come to the Pocket, from the incredible arcade cores like Capcom's CPS2 to Tamagotchi of all things. I did not think Pocket would get a bloody virtual pet before it got Mega CD support, but what are you gonna do? The only downside to having all of this choice is that sometimes it can be difficult to choose what to play. Revisiting games you grew up with can be fun for a while, but at some point you start wanting to play something new and fresh but still retro. In this video, I'll be sharing the best homebrew games that work great on Pocket, ranging from ambitious ports that make familiar retro classics feel fresh again, to completely new games developed for legacy hardware. I've put all the download links for the games in the description. Let's get started. Xenocrisis is like Super Smash TV, but with a sprinkle of Alien and a dollop of Starship Troopers thrown in for good measure. This frantic, procedurally generated shooter released on both old and new platforms back in 2019. I have a soft spot for the Genesis or Mega Drive version, which I'm playing here. The goal in this game is to kill everything on the screen and not die. Simple. The room layouts, enemies and item drops vary a little every time you play. This helps keep the game fresh, but it does make it harder because you can't memorize what's coming. During the levels, enemies will randomly drop dog tags, which you can use to buy extra lives and upgrades at the end of each level. And if you're anything like me, you'll need all the help you can get because this game is seriously tough. Even on the so-called easy difficulty, I can't make it past the 3rd level. These bloody enemies that pop out of the ground at random intervals and spam projectiles have killed me more times than I care to admit. Each level has ended with a boss fight, and the ones I've managed to get to at least have all had cool designs. Building becomes crucial when facing these screen-filling monstrosities. But yeah, probably best not to take tips from Mr. I can't get past the 3rd level over here. Though I suck at it, I find myself coming back to Xenocrisis a lot. Its intense arcade-style action feels right at home on Pocket, and it's fun to play in short bursts. It would be nice if the game had some sort of saving system though, but the procedurally generated nature of the game means you'll never play exactly the same level twice. Next up, we have Starfox EX Exploration Showcase. If you played the original SNES Star Fox to death but need more chunky 90s polygonal goodness in your life, then Starfox EX, which I'll now be calling it because the name is a bit of a mouthful, is a fan-made expansion that should scratch that itch nicely. The best way to describe Starfox EX is that it feels like a die-hard Nintendo fan's fever dream. Mario, Luigi, Link, Samus and other famous Nintendo characters are teaming up to take on Fox McCloud and his team for some reason. The creators of this game took an absurdist approach to this concept, so it will either make you laugh or cringe depending on your tastes. But if you ever wanted to see giant Metroids numbing on an R-Wing, then this is the game for you. The expansion consists of 17 levels, some of which are pretty damn challenging. It also offers 3 pages of customization options, allowing you to change anything from the difficulty to the size of the models in the game, to the user interface and the frame rate. But I would leave the frame rate alone if I were you, as the game tends to glitch out if you go higher than 20 frames per second. I think 30 frames per second only works on emulators. I just wanted to mention that while the game overall is really polished, I did notice this weird visual glitch that happens in every level introduction screen. I don't know if it's an issue with the Pocket's core or the ROM itself, but luckily the rest of the game runs perfectly. Starfox EX looks like Star Fox, plays like Star Fox, and the new music compositions are so good they could have come from the original game. Pretty good, right? While the music generally hits the mark, the levels themselves don't quite match the original in terms of their pacing and design. The levels often feel like a series of enemies and obstacles coming your way with no sense of structure. Whereas to me, the levels in the original were great at starting off simply and then gradually increasing the number of enemies and obstacles as you make your way through them. But that's just me being nitpicky, I think. Starfox EX is still a solid effort overall. It's really polished and the passion of the team behind it is visible in every wonderfully chunky polygon. Once you're done with EX, the developers also included the original Starfox game as well, which you can now play using all of EX's customization options. Nice. To get Starfox EX running, you'll need to apply a patch to a ROM of the original Starfox game. You can download the patch by going to this website, the link is in the description. On the website, you'll also find info on which specific version of the Starfox ROM you'll need to patch it to. Once you've got the patch and the ROM, the process is simple enough. In the zip file of the patch, there are multiple files. For Pocket, we only need the SFEX 1.07.1 file. Extract this to the same folder containing your Starfox ROM. Now, open your web browser and go to this URL, the link is in the description. Click on the Choose File button next to the base ROM and select your original Starfox ROM. Next, click on the Choose File button next to Patch and select the SFEX 1.07.1 file. Once done, click on Apply Patch and the patch ROM will start downloading. The final step is to just rename the patched ROM to whatever you like and copy it over to your Pocket SSD card. Job done. '23 marks Doom's 30th anniversary, and shooting demons until they crumble into bundles of death is just as satisfying now as it was back then. So what are our options for playing Doom on the Pocket? Well, normally we would only have two, SNES Doom or GBA Doom. Let's check out the SNES one first. Firstly, it's miraculous that Doom exists on the SNES at all. It's one of the most technically ambitious console ports of all time, and while it deserves a lot of respect for that, the fact is in 2023 it's just not a good way to play Doom. Let's start with the visuals. As you can probably see, the game is extremely dark and blocky, to the point where you can't even see what you're murdering sometimes. Even Pocket's lovely screen can't do much to fix this. In fact, its small size actually makes this even more of a problem. On top of the enemies being a bit on the blocky side, hardware limitations prevent them from turning, so they always face you. But it's actually the performance that breaks this game for me. Trying to run around and murder things with a frame rate this low kind of puts me off murdering things, to be honest. It feels as if Doom Guy is constantly wading through water. The soundtrack and sound effects are on point though, so it's not all bad. I wouldn't call the SNES version of Doom unplayable, but its dark, murky visuals, poor performance and laggy controls don't really make it a good fit for playing on the Pocket. Now let's take a look at the GBA version. This one is a bit of a mixed bag. It certainly runs smoother than the SNES, but it's still kind of choppy, but at least the enemies can turn around in this one, so that's something I guess. It's also less blocky and a lot brighter, but the trade-off is that the game looks super washed out. Also, the enemies have green blood because according to early 2000s Nintendo, shooting demons until they crumble into satisfying bundles of death is fine, but the blood can't be red because that's a bit too much. Overall, for a portable version of Doom from 20 years ago, it's pretty decent. But do you know what's even better? This. This is the original PC version of Doom, ported to GBA by GitHub developer DoomHack amongst others. It's based on the original Windows version, while the official GBA version of Doom was based on the Atari Jaguar build of the game. It's superior to the official GBA version in just about every way. It runs smoother, feels more responsive to play, and doesn't look washed out. Also, look at all of that nice, normal red blood. In your face, Nintendo. On top of that, you can also choose between high detail and low detail mode. To show the difference between the two settings, let's try out this busy little set piece from later on in the game that pushes the engine. First up, here's the high mode. And here's low. If I flip between the two, you can see that high does give the enemies a little bit more detail. But honestly, I only noticed this when I was reviewing the footage, not when I was actually playing the game. As expected, high's frame rate does dip more than low when the action gets busy, but it's perfectly fine for the vast majority of the game. The soundtrack and sound effects have a lot more punch behind them as well. This basically just feels like an authentic version of Doom, but on GBA with as few compromises as possible. It's fantastic. So for now at least, GBA Doom is the best way to play Doom on the Pocket. If you're a fan of Doom, be sure to check this one out. This fan-made Mario World expansion is of such high quality you could think that Nintendo made it themselves. This game is an absolute blast to play, and it's hands down one of the best looking and sounding games I've ever experienced on Super Nintendo. There are moments where the combination of the music and the art was so lovely I got goosebumps. The seasonal themes of each of the game's 4 worlds means there's a lot of variety in the game's art direction. Personally, I like the melancholic browns of autumn the best. The level design is top notch too and makes smart use of the game's 4 seasons. Just like in every great Nintendo game, new mechanics are introduced to you gently, with the difficulty gradually increasing as you progress. And there are some really cool concepts here that haven't been in any other Mario game as far as I know. Like this Christmas theme level where boos turn into presents when you look at them instead of standing still. You can then use the gift wrap boos as platforms to advance. Or this wonderful underwater level that's shrouded in darkness and all the characters are silhouettes. It kind of reminds me of this fantastic level from Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. This is probably my favourite level in the entire game. It has such a nice atmosphere, and I love that the only bright colour shining through the darkness is Mario's iconic red hat. Or white hat, if you collect the power flower. If lovely, atmospheric underwater levels aren't your cup of tea, then how about this autumn level where you use falling leaves as platforms? Or this winter level where snowmen throw balls at you? Or this fun level full of lava and moving ropes? New mechanics are added to this game constantly, so you're bound to find something that you like here. I've always found the boss fights in 2D Mario games to be kind of weak and repetitive, but that's really not the case in A Plumber for All Seasons. I really wasn't expecting to struggle so much on this first boss. You have to time your jumps very precisely to reach the platform with the shell on so you can throw it at the boss. The timing changes slightly throughout the fight as well to keep you on your toes. So it's not just about recognizing the boss's pattern and hitting them 3 times, which is kind of the norm for 2D Mario. Instead, there's a bit more nuance here that makes working out how to defeat the boss really satisfying. What's great is that each boss is different from the last, but I won't spoil the others here. A Plumber for All Seasons is brimming with content. It has 37 levels in total, star coins to collect in every level and secret exits to be found. It'll take most people around 2 to 3 hours to complete, I think, but completionists will easily be able to get 5 or 6 hours out of it. It's a really fun and seamless experience on Pocket. It saves automatically after every level, so you never have to worry about losing progress if your play session gets interrupted. I did notice this weird visual glitch, but it only happens every now and then and on 2 levels as far as I can tell, so it's not game breaking by any means. It's amazing to me how creative and fun A Plumber for All Seasons is. If you like 2D platformers and are tired of replaying Mario World for the millionth time, then definitely give this one a go. To get A Plumber for All Seasons running on your Pocket, you just need to follow the same procedure I mentioned for Starfox EX. Follow the link in the description, combine the patch with the Mario World base ROM, and you're all set. And that's my list. If you end up checking out any of these games, please let me know what you think in the comments below, and also feel free to share your own game recommendations. See you next time.